Welcome back to Superbly Said Advanced English Vocabulary and Phrases.
And today's material is drawn straight from a SpeakDuo lesson, specifically New Scotland Yard Season 1, Episode 11, Ask No Questions.
You can go to SpeakDuo.com to meet new people from around the world who are practicing English on video calls to become more confident with their English-speaking abilities.
Which is awesome. And, our mission today is walking you through 15 high-level idiomatic phrases.
Right, because if you're an advanced English learner, you want to sound natural in professional settings or, on a major exam like IELTS.
Exactly. You don't want to sound like you just memorized a textbook.
No, definitely not. So let's jump right into our first section, which is all about establishing yourself and taking control.
Love it.
When you enter a new phase in your career, you really have to stand on your own feet, meaning to be independent and not rely on others.
Yeah, and the physical metaphor is super important here. Think of a toddler learning to walk. The moment they let go of the furniture, they're supporting their own weight. In the adult world, this almost always translates to financial or structural independence. But people often confuse it with the phrase, stand one's ground.
Oh, yeah, those sound really similar.
They do, but they are totally different. Standing your ground is defensive. You are in a heated argument and you refuse to back down.
Right, whereas standing on your own feet is just about life capability.
Yeah.
So if I were answering an IELTS Part 2 question, I might say, when I moved from my first job and started paying my own bills, I really learned to stand on my own feet.
Spot on. It shows you get the figurative meaning perfectly.
Or at work, a manager could say, she required a lot of training, but now she really stands on her own feet.
Exactly. It communicates that transition from being a liability to being an asset. But what about the person nobody sees coming?
Oh, the dark horse.
Yes. A dark horse. Someone with hidden talents who totally surprises others with a success.
I've always liked this phrase, but how is a dark horse fundamentally different from an underdog? Because don't they both win when nobody expects them to?
That's a great question. The distinction is really about visibility. An underdog is highly visible, but they're just, expected to lose.
Like a terrible sports team facing the champions.
Exactly. But a dark horse comes from 19th century horse racing. It literally described a horse that nobody knew anything about. No one knew its speed or breeding.
So you couldn't even place odds on it.
Right. So a dark horse isn't expected to lose. They just aren't factored into the equation at all until they suddenly win.
That makes so much sense. So in an office, you might talk about a quiet coworker and say, I didn't expect much from him, but he proved to be a dark horse when he stepped up and completely reorganized the logistics pipeline.
Yeah, that's a perfect workplace example. And when that dark horse succeeds, they might achieve our third phrase, which is to make a score.
Meaning to achieve a major success or a goal. But making a score sounds almost calculating, right? Like a bank heist. Whereas something like hitting a home run just feels like a lucky swing.
The heist imagery is exactly right. A home run is sudden and, involves some luck. But making a score implies a really calculated, targeted effort to secure something specific.
So you don't accidentally make a score.
Never. You do the research, you make the pitch, and you win the rare opportunity.
Got it. So I could update my boss by saying, we really made a score with that national competition win.
Perfect.
But, things don't always go that smoothly. Sometimes systems break down, which brings us to phrase 4, take matters into one's own hands. Or take in own hands, taking direct personal action to resolve a problem.
Right.
But let me push back here. In a strict corporate environment, couldn't saying you took matters into your own hands sound, insubordinate?
It's all about context. We have to separate taking matters into your own hands from going rogue.
Okay, what's the difference?
Going rogue means the rules are working fine, but you just arrogantly ignore them. Taking matters into your own hands is emergency triage. If the email server crashes an hour before a big proposal is due, you don't just sit there.
Right. You take matters into your own hands and call the client or deliver it physically.
Exactly. You are proactive when systems fail.
So for an IELTS answer, you could say, nobody else volunteered to lead the project, so I took matters into my own hands.
It shows great initiative.
Okay. So you've established yourself, you're taking initiative, but then you hit the reality of modern work, which is just chaos.
Total chaos.
This is our second section. And that brings us to phrase 5, up to one's eyes, meaning extremely busy or overwhelmed.
Yeah, and think of the physical sensation here. We say we're busy all the time. Busy is just the baseline. But being up to your eyes implies the water has risen so high, it's at your eye line.
Like you're drowning in paperwork.
Exactly.
Hmm.
If you take on even one more drop, you submerge completely. It implies a total lack of forward visibility.
So it's like the ultimate polite rejection. Instead
Yeah.
of just saying, I'm busy, you tell a colleague, I'd love to help, but I'm up to my eyes in reports this month.
Right, it commands empathy instead of frustration.
And usually, you're up to your eyes because leadership is disorganized, which leads to phrase 6, to chop and change, meaning to keep changing plans or opinions repeatedly.
Yes. And companies love to use the word pivoting, but this is entirely different.
How so?
Pivoting is strategic, it's positive. Chopping and changing is frustrating and aimless. It actually comes from shady 16th century merchants who would constantly alter their terms to confuse buyers.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so today it describes a manager who wants a blue website on Monday, red on Tuesday, and square on Wednesday.
That is the worst. So you could complain diplomatically by saying, the committee keeps chopping and changing the project schedule.
Exactly. It destroys team morale.
And when morale drops, you might accidentally use phrase 7 to strike out at, to react with sudden verbal frustration.
Like a cornered snake suddenly lunging. And we have to contrast this with just giving negative feedback.
Right, because feedback is intentional.
Right. Striking out is purely an emotional reflex. It's reactive, and it usually requires an apology later.
So in IELTS, talking about a stressful time, you could say, I was so overwhelmed that I struck out at a teammate, but I apologized immediately after.
That shows amazing self-awareness for an exam.
For sure. But if you do make a mistake, the worst thing a coworker can do is phrase 8 to make light of, meaning to treat a serious situation as trivial. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg and saying, oh, it's fine.
The Band-Aid metaphor is perfect. People confuse this with lightening the mood. Lightening the mood is helpful when people are stressed.
Right.
But making light of a serious team error is dismissive. It's dangerous.
So if you missed a deadline, you might tell a manager, I was very concerned that he made light of the situation instead of helping us fix it.
Exactly.
Which naturally moves us into our third section, setbacks and silver linings, because career slumps happen. Which brings us to phrase 9, a rough time, a very difficult or challenging period.
And this leans into nautical imagery like rough seas. It's different from just a bad day.
Because a bad day is over quickly.
Right. A bad day is a quick storm. A rough time implies an extended season of difficulty.
Okay, so an IELTS narrative might be, when I moved to a new city, I went through a rough time adjusting, but joining local groups helped me get through it.
Perfect.
But sometimes a setback isn't a long season, it's a sudden drop. That's phrase 10, a come down. A sudden drop in status, expectation, or quality.
Notice how physical it is. You are coming down from a height. A letdown is just disappointment, like a bad movie. But a come down is a tangible loss of rank.
Oh, like a promotion falling through.
Exactly.
So at work, you might say, after running the whole department, going back to my old role was a real come down.
Yeah, that drop in altitude hurts, especially if someone caused it by leaving you high and dry, which is phrase 11, left completely helpless or unsupported.
High and dry.
Think of a ship that sails too close to shore at high tide. When the water recedes, the ship is literally left high and dry on the sand.
Totally stranded. And how is that different from just being left behind?
Left behind can be an accident. High and dry implies someone actively failed their obligation to you.
Got it. So telling your boss about a vendor canceling last minute when the tour bus broke down, we were left high and dry.
Exactly. They failed you.
But it's not always bad news. Sometimes you get a silver lining, which is phrase 12 in the bargain, in addition to what has already been mentioned.
It's the silver lining phrase, but it's different from just getting something as a bonus.
Because a bonus is usually just given to you, right?
Right. And the bargain implies it was negotiated or it resulted naturally from your main action.
So pitching a win to your manager, you'd say, we got the contract and secured free maintenance in the bargain.
Because you earned it.
Exactly. Okay, moving to our final section, endings and departures. Phrases about things concluding. Phrase 13 is a personal one, to kick the habit, to successfully stop a negative routine.
Yeah, it's entirely internal. Unlike breaking a rule, which is about an external boundary, a habit is personal, like checking your phone late at night.
So an IELTS response about health could be, I finally kicked the habit of looking at screens before bed.
Great usage.
But phrase 14 is much harsher, kick into the street, to abruptly dismiss or abandon someone.
Yeah, corporate language is usually so sterile. We say laid off or downsized. But kicked into the street implies a brutal, callous lack of support from leadership.
Like discussing corporate cuts, you could say. They were just kicked into the street without any severance.
It paints a really devastating picture.
It really does. And finally, phrase 15, to bite the dust. To fail completely or come to an end.
Unlike a car breaking down, which can be fixed, a project that bites the dust is dead forever.
So, explaining a tech update, you tell your boss, the old legacy software programs have finally bit the dust.
Exactly, they are gone.
Okay, that is all 15 phrases. So now it's time to test your knowledge with our interactive quiz. I'll introduce the question and read option A, option B, and option C.
And pay attention, because the target phrase is going to pop up a lot.
I'll say, feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think out the answer, and then we will immediately give you the correct answer. Ready?
Let's do it.
Question 1. Which sentence uses the idiomatic phrase, stand on one's feet correctly, based on context? Option A. The professional podiatry and lower limb surgical specialist was instructed to check if the patient could stand on one's feet. Option B. The deeply frustrated young retail clerk aggressively managed to completely drop a white line. Option C. After years of financial support from her family, she finally secured stable employment and learned to stand on her own feet. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer.
The correct answer is option C. Stand on one's feet means achieving independence, just like our earlier IELTS example about moving out and paying your own bills.
Spot on. Question 2. Select the context where the phrase high and dry is most appropriately used figuratively. Option A. When the tech startup suddenly went bankrupt and ceased operations without paying wages, the entire contracted development team was left high and dry. Option B. The professional maritime docking shipyard technician was instructed to keep the cargo boat high and dry during low tide. Option C. The incredibly clumsy warehouse inventory clerk accidentally managed to quickly buy some large systems. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer.
The answer is option A. Remember the stranded ship. High and dry means being left completely helpless, just like the vendor who stranded the tour group.
Exactly. Okay. Question 3. In which situation does someone accurately utilize the advanced phrase, a dark horse, contextually? Option A. The professional equestrian breeding stable manager was instructed to train a dark horse during the morning riding session. Option B. Although he rarely spoke in meetings and had no prior political experience, the quiet councilman proved to be a dark horse and won the mayoral race. Option C. The completely terrified young wilderness traveler unexpectedly noticed an exceptionally massive, heavy tool chest. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer.
And the winner is option B. A dark horse is an unknown entity with hidden talents who suddenly succeeds, much like that quiet coworker stepping up on a project.
Right on. Question 4. Which response best demonstrates the advanced phrase to chop and change figuratively? Option A. Because the project director kept chopping and changing the design specifications every single day, the developers could never finish the code. Option B. The professional timber logging woodworking carpenter was instructed to chop and change the wooden planks during the workshop. Option C. The incredibly clumsy warehouse inventory clerks accidentally managed to quickly catch that white balance. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer.
It's option A. Drawing from those shady merchants, to chop and change means repeatedly and frustratingly altering plans, causing chaos for the team.
Perfect. Question 5. How would a professional accurately use the phrase to bite the dust contextually? Option A. The professional industrial cleaning dust mitigation technician was instructed to bite the dust during the warehouse sweep. Option B. The completely confused amateur theater group unexpectedly decided to proudly paint a clean frame. Option C. Unable to compete with newer cloud-native alternatives, the legacy desktop software platform finally bit the dust after 20 years. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer.
The correct choice is option C. When a system bites the dust, it fails completely and is dead forever, just like those old legacy programs.
Nice. Question 6. Which scenario perfectly illustrates the meaning of the phrase, to take matters into one's own hands contextually? Option A. The professional hand modeling manicure stylist was instructed to take into own hands during the photo shoot. Option B. Frustrated by months of bureaucratic delays from the municipal maintenance department, she took matters into her own hands and hired private contractors. Option C. The incredibly clumsy hotel maintenance worker accidentally managed to completely drop that red tray. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer.
That would be option B. Taking matters into one's own hands is about stepping up to solve a problem personally when normal systems fail you.
Almost done. Question 7. Which sentence accurately utilizes the advanced phrase, in the bargain, contextually? Option A. Not only did he successfully negotiate a 20% discount on the software licenses, but he secured free technical support in the bargain. Option B. The professional retail shopping bargain hunting clerk was instructed to check in the bargain during the clearance sale. Option C. The deeply confused young kitchen assistant accidentally managed to quickly slice a fresh piece of bargain. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer.
The answer is option A. In the bargain acts as that negotiated silver lining, a bonus benefit secured naturally alongside the main transaction.
And our final question, question 8. Which of the following statements correctly uses to make a score contextually? Option A. Our team made a score when we won the national competition and secured our yearly funding. Option B. The professional symphony conductor was instructed to make a score on the sheet music using a red pen. Option C. The deeply frustrated barista unexpectedly managed to make a score out of the coffee beans. Feel free to pause this deep dive here if you need to think about the answer.
The correct answer is option A. Thinking back to our heist analogy, to make a score is to achieve a highly targeted, specific, and major success.
Wow, that was all 8. If you got those right, you were well on your way to sounding incredibly natural.
Absolutely. And before we wrap up today, I just want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. We spend so much energy learning English vocabulary, but idioms like being up to one's eyes or a dark horse, they are highly cultural.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, they reflect the history and the environment of the people who coined them. So think about your own native language. Do you have direct translations for these exact concepts? Or do you use completely different imagery, like maybe animals or food or weather, to express the exact same human experience?
That's a really interesting point.
It's a great reminder that learning a language isn't just memorizing rules, it's really about learning a completely new way to view the world.
What a perfect way to end. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and keep practicing.